Hello, you speakers. I'm Katsa.
I'm George.
And I'm Javier.
We've come across a lot of learners who think they can skip classes and just use apps, videos, audiobooks, and TV shows with captions to learn English. While having access to so much input is great, it's important to remember that you need more than just listening or watching to improve your English skills. You need to practice speaking, writing, and using the language actively to see any progress.
There is no shortcut to success. Success hurts. It requires hard work, and it all depends if you're willing to put in the time and effort. But once you've cleared that out of the way, the path is clear and you will learn English.
True. Now, you guys know I'm a huge advocate for self-learning because I grew up without the internet. I'm going to tell my grandkids that I'm older than Google. And it's true.
It's totally
If
true.
I wanted to learn anything back in the old days, I had to go out there and get a book, and take the time to read it and experiment, try it.
Right.
Which was not bad. It got me closer to my goal, but there is a caveat, guys. You gotta have someone that will walk you through and tell you what you're doing wrong. Because as the way I see it is, think of it this way. I see a lot of people in my neighborhood, they're buying that punching bag and they're whipping at it, They're doing it wrong. I mean, if your goal is to just get in shape, yeah, but you're not learning to fight, and then maybe that's not what you wanted. You need someone that will walk you through it and point out your mistakes.
That's right. Okay, so stay tuned because today you're learning how to turn all that input into real practice and improve your speaking skills. Welcome to another episode of the You Speak English podcast. Thank you for hitting that play button and subscribing to our podcast channel. Remember, you can download the script for this podcast. The link is in the description box below.
Phrasal verb of the week. Do you know which phrasal verb is used to include or introduce something? To bring in. This is a phrasal verb that can have a few different meanings depending on the context. Here are a couple of common meanings. To introduce or include. Example, in the meeting, let's bring in the new project launch date. To cause or produce a result. Example, his hard work will bring in positive results. To carry or take something to a place. Can you bring in the snacks for the party?
Yeah, why not? English fun facts. Ready, guys? Did you know that English does not have a Royal Academy of Language? Like a place that controls the language, tells you what is right or wrong, what is wrong. Unlike languages such as Spanish, French, and Germans, which do, this English only doesn't have a Royal Academy. The closest we have, I believe, is in British English. They have Cambridge University. On the other hand, entities such as Oxford English Dictionary for the Americans are responsible for publishing reference works in language, in changes. Nevertheless, a lot of great speakers start by quoting Webster's dictionary. I don't know, speakers such as politicians and so on will start with courage is defined by Webster as blah blah blah, and that gives you a great pull.
Oh, interesting.
By the way, if you want to start a good speech, start by quoting the word from a dictionary.
Webster's, but why do they quote Webster's dictionary?
I don't know, but
Oxford's dictionary.
In hindsight, Katsa, I do remember that in the high school, at least the high school I went, when we had dictionaries on the shelf for everyone to use, I'm about 12. You could just pick up a dictionary while you're working there, and they were all Webster's. So I don't know. They must have given him a great deal.
American thing.
It's an American thing, but it is a common thing. We used to play a game in our classroom where the teacher would say a word and we had to look it up quickly in the dictionary, raise our hand, and whoever row got the fastest would get a point. Because back in the old days, we didn't just have a search. You had to actually look through the dictionary. Remember that? But you guys are too young.
All right, now to the main topic. Let's go for understanding input. Let's kick it off with the basics. So what is input? Input is like the building blocks of language learning. It's what you absorb, whether it's through listening, reading, or consuming English content in various forms.
Exactly. For instance, watching movies, listening to podcasts, or reading articles, it's the information you take in.
But here's the twist. Input is not practice. This is where things can get a bit tricky. Consuming content doesn't actually translate to active language use.
Now, to answer your question, are all of those hours spent in front of the TV completely useless? Well, the answer is no, not at all. What you might be missing in your daily practice of English are, Javier?
Exactly. Here are some tips to transform input into practice. Now, let's talk about turning that input into practical skills. Okay, number one, active listening. When you're tuning into a podcast or watching a show, don't just zone out, engage actively, repeat phrases, mimic accents, and play with pronunciation. You can also look up new words in the dictionary to broaden your vocabulary. Describe the context and think about what word or phrasal verbs you have heard in a different context.
Also, reading interaction. Reading isn't a passive activity. Take notes, underline new words, and try to use them in your own sentences. Make reading an interactive experience. Always aim to understand new words and find the correlation with the reading's context. You can read aloud to create a connection with your input and speaking skills while you're learning something new. Create questions about the text in English and answer them based on what you've learned.
And now the heavy hitters, classes and feedback. Why are they so crucial, George?
Well, classes are like your language gym. They provide structure and chance to practice what you've absorbed from input and in a supportive environment.
Absolutely. And let's not forget feedback. It's not just about correction. It's a roadmap to guide you where you are to where you want to be regarding your English production skills.
So, dear listeners, remember that input is the foundation, but practice is the bridge to fluency. Enroll in classes, seek feedback, and watch real progress happening in real time. And that brings us to the end of our episode. Let's wrap it up, guys.
All right. Well, learning requires time, consistency, motivation, and a real desire to learn English, not just wish to do so. So go out there and practice English.
And like I've always said, guys, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So, yes, putting all that input, putting all that practice, but get a teacher to coach you. Someone that knows, not your cousin from LA.
Okay, this is it for today. Thank you to all of our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our channel and sharing it with your friends. Also, remember to check out our YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. Feel free to leave a comment on our videos too. Lastly, visit our website where you can find articles about English practice and learning. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on social media. You will find us as at USPK English, the one with the yellow logo. We're everywhere except for X and Threads. And remember,
perfect practice
makes perfect.
All right. Until next time. Bye-bye.
See you then.